The Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast. Real Doctor Who fans with real Doctor Who opinions.
Hello and welcome to the Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast, a podcast dedicated to discussing and reviewing all things Doctor Who, Big Finish, science fiction, and other things that happen to tickle our fancy. This is episode 333. I am co-host free in this episode. I am Brett. And in this podcast, I am going to be going over my top 10 favorite releases from Big Finish from 2010. Yes, this is a listology. Please look over some of our other listologies that we've done. I thoroughly enjoy lists. I enjoy comparing my list with others. In this podcast, we're going to break down all the releases from January 2010, all the way to December 2010. I am going to give you my top 10 for that year. I also have the top 10 favoritist from the timescales reviewers of that chunk of releases, as well as the lowest 5 or 10. I can't remember what I did. I'll have to look that up in a second. Oops, wrong page. So yeah, I've previously done 2009, which I really appreciated, and I just, again, love lists. Please email the show at alhambraaudio@gmail.com, tweet the show at Alhambra Podcast. DMs are open. What is your favorite release from Big Finish during the 2010 year? So I guess with that on board, I am going to start and go in release order. Some of the things I will not really cover heavily because they might be Dark Shadows or whatever. I'm just going to kind of, scoot on past because, again, even though it is science fiction, even though it is Big Finish, Liam is the Dark Shadows fanatic. I am not. There's also some audiobooks and stuff like there. I try to get into audiobooks. It's just not my thing. But I think this is quite interesting because, as Legion once said in a podcast not a long time ago, and definitely not in a galaxy far away, but he did say this regarding the ages of Big Finish.
The golden age, I'd say,
it's come and gone.
Was 1-2 circular time. I think the silver age, which is more tarnished silver, more of a pooey brown, is like 91 to 150.
So I will tell you, personally, as I was compiling the releases of the 2010 Big Finish stuff, I found myself, personally, I found the beginning of 2010 kind of the pooey brown that he discussed regarding releases and the quality of them. And I think that things started taking off near the tail end of 2010, going into 2011. But again, everybody's taste is unique unto their own. We can agree, we can disagree, but again, at the end of the day, we're talking about a show that we love. We are fans, which is short for fanatics. So with that, I'm going to get into January 2010's release. We have Dark Shadows Final Judgment. Have no comment on that. Main range release, 130. 1,000 Tiny Wings, written by Andy Lane and Mark Platt. We have The Lost Stories, which was still in their first season, with Leviathan by Brian and Paul Finch. And then the Companion Chronicles, Bernice Summerfield and The Criminal Code by Eddie Robson. Now, for me personally, the 1,000 Tiny Wings was the beginning of the Klein story arc, or part 2 of... No, part 2? Anyway. Yeah, no, part 1, because part 2 came later. I will tell you, never a huge Klein fan. I did appreciate her appearance in the unit Dominion, and I did like the character's evolution the second time she came around in the main range. But with this, not a huge fan. 1,000 Tiny Wings, which did have, if memory serves me correctly, there were 2 stories in 1,000 Tiny Wings. There was the first story, which was what? Oh, no, sorry. That's next month. Sorry. Jumped ahead. So yeah, A Thousand Tiny Wings, just, it was an okay story. I think the highlight of January 2010 is the Sixth Doctor lost story, Leviathan, which I found thoroughly enjoyable. I think that that's probably one of the higher, the better re-listen value lost stories, especially from the first season and also some other places. But yeah, and then I think Bernice Summerfield and the Criminal Code, I think that's it's been a while since I heard that. I think it's still a good release, but Companion Chronicles have always been, for me, a hit and miss. I find when it hits, it is either a perfect 10, which there's not that many perfect 10s, or, a high 9, or an 8.5. But the ones that miss, I find, are, 5, 6, 4, 3 range, personally. And so I think Bernice Summerfield is kind of like, a 6.57, if memory serves me right, if I'm remembering the one. And again, I probably need to revisit some of these as I am, discussing and reviewing. I'm just kind of going over what I felt and what I remember feeling, and kind of as I was like reading some of the synopsises on the timescales, kind of revisiting that. February 2010 brings us main range release 131, there we go. There is the two-part story. We have Survival of the Fittest by John Ainsworth, and we have Klein's Story, which was a half hour long, by Lee Mansfield. We have The Lost Stories 104, The Hollows of Time by Christopher H. Bedmead. This brings us the Tractators back to the, I guess the screen, or the, your imagination's mind. You have The Suffering, which is a companion chronicle, which was written by Jacqueline Rainier. That one is, let's see, I believe it is who is The Suffering? Maureen O'Brien and Peter Purvis. That's right. And I think, no, this was not the, Suffering was an interesting story about, a skeleton. The suffering regarding it, the TARDIS materializes in England in 1912, a great time of social change. The suffragettes move is lobbying for votes for women, and the skull of a so-called missing link has been discovered in the pit down. So I do remember the skull, and I do remember, for me personally, that was kind of, it got a little bit too, I want to say, overacted. Again, Klein's Story gives you like a little background. Survival of the Fittest, still not really strong for me personally. I think, oddly, and I think a lot of people would disagree, I think the best release for the month of February of 2010 was The Hollows of Time. And I think the main reason why I kind of like it is, I believe you have in this story, if memory serves me right, I have listened to you have Professor Stream, which again, I can't remember if or why they weren't able to use the Master, but I believe it was the Master. And I appreciated that character, even though it was not the Master. So I think for me, personally, the highlight of the month of February is The Hollows of Time, followed by, I guess you could say, Survival of the Fittest. But I still didn't, again, the first Klein trilogy, not the hugest fan. March 2010 brings us not that many releases, which, again, I would love for Big Finish to go back to as I look at their current, as of the time of recording, as I look at what they have coming out for July 2024. We have Dark Gallifrey, The War Master Part 1. We have Torchwood Soho Ascendant. We have The Second Doctor Adventures, Conspiracy of Raven. The Lost Stories, Death World, and which is a Third Doctor story, which is part of the Three Doctors, perhaps what the original Three Doctors storyline was supposed to be, before they found out that William Hartnell was not well. And then, of course, we have the Lost Story, Operation Werewolf, as well as the monthly Torchwood release. And then we have the novel adaptation, Doctor Who Goth Opera. For me personally, what I'm interested in, I'm kind of somewhat interested in this Dark Gallifrey Warrant Master because I do want to listen to this Dark Gallifrey. However, and I'm glad that I kind of have not listened to it yet at all, is because it's almost kind of like a monthly release. However, the news recently was that one of the releases is being pushed back. So it's a monthly release, kind of, sort of. So, and I don't remember which one it was or what's going on regarding the whole thing. But again, that's why I like the monthly range. That's why I like the Companion Chronicles the way it is, or was, because let's just say you have, I don't know, some sort of story that at the time people started worrying and were concerned that they were going to get hate mail and stuff like that because of the political difference, because of a writer's personal opinion is not as, is not seen and is well regarded. So you have, and if you're not sure what I'm talking about, the Lovecraft invasion, you have that. And that got pushed back to, at one point in time, we weren't even sure if it was ever going to come out. And then they released it many months later. But again, they were able to slide one release up to cover for either some stealth editing, which again, according to Big Finish, the Lovecraft invasion has not been stealth edited. The recording dates are what they are. There was no this and that. But to me personally, if you listen to the Lovecraft invasion, part 1 and part 4, seem like they maintain a practical story. Or no, or is it the other way around? I'd love to listen to it again, but I don't think I can because it's not a good story. Anyway, so that's what's coming out this month as of recording, July 2024. But you have, and look at what is being released in March. I don't know, we're going from March to July, but again, you have the Architects of History, you have Paradise 5, and you have the Companion Chronicles, the Lost Story, Paradise 5, and the Companion Chronicles, The Empire of Eternity. 3 releases compared to that. Now, I think out of all of the Klein trilogy, I think the Architects of History is the strongest one. It has the Salacians in it. I find the Salacians a very interesting villain. I can't remember if Gareth Roberts was the one that first created it in novelization, or if that is the turtle creatures that memory escapes me. Perhaps Steve Lyons or somebody. I think it's Steve Lyons that actually created the Salacians, because I know he did the Salacians Gambit as a companion chronicle many years later. But yeah, so the Architects of History, I think, is probably the best Klein story out of the trilogy. You have Paradise 5, which is maybe, and here'd be a controversial opinion, is who knows which is better, the Lost Story Leviathan or the Lost Story Paradise 5. Paradise 5 is a fantastic story. Think highly of it. Then you have the Companion Chronicles for the month of March, the Emperor of Eternity, and that is voiced by Deborah Watling, and the voice acting is not good. Deborah Watling's voice, not good at all. And, age does take its toll. Nobody escapes life, unscathed, but it was just a hard listen to. I wish they had kind of maybe done it differently. Maybe it'd be more of a heavy Jamie story, but again, it is a heavy victorious story with Jamie on the side. And I think that's what makes it hard also. And I don't think it's that great of a story. So, yeah, that's what you had for the month of March 2010. April 2010, you have Sherlock Holmes and the Ripper, which I know I own. Yeah, according to this, I do own. I don't think I've ever listened to that. Maybe it's because it was, the Nick Briggs era of Sherlock Holmes, and I don't know. Then you have Oh, here's where we get to the Pooey Brown. This is, for me, it's been kind of from time to time, but I think here's where you get the Pooey Brown. You have the Doctor Who main range release, 133, The City of Spires by Simon Bovey. This starts the 3-part Jamie and Sixth Doctor storyline. You have the Lost Stories, The Point of Entry by Barbara Clegg and Mark Platt. I think this one is a better story than people give it credit for. I think there's what do I like more? This one or Hollows of Time? Actually, I think Point of Entry is a better story than Hollows of Time. So, yeah. Anyway, and then we have the Companion Chronicles, Shadow of the Past by Simon Guerrier. Now, Point of Entry. I don't think I take that back. I was looking at the cover art. I don't think I've ever finished listening to Point of Entry. Never mind. I think I got that confused with something else. Possibly. Because, that's the Kit Marlowe story. Companion Chronicles, Shadows of the Past. This is a Carolyn John Liz story. And I don't think it is. I don't think I own that one. Right now, I could pick it up for $3.78, possibly. That would be okay. And then, of course, you have some Dark Shadow stuff. Blood Dance. Again, have no opinion on. For the month of April, having not listened to Holmes and the Ripper and City of Spires, I might have to give it to Point of Entry, The Lost Story, as the best release for the month of April. All right. Moving on to the next month, the more Pooey Brown color for the releases for May 2010, we have the Companion Chronicles, The Time Vampire. Now, this is another one I've never listened to. This is a Nigel Fair story. This is focusing around Louise Jameson's Leela. This is John Leeson as Canine. But the reason why I have not listened to it is this is the Leela. I think this is a trilogy, or maybe there is a quadrilogy or whatever, a 4-part story regarding after Leela has died. I believe it started off in the 2nd season of Companion Chronicles. And at the time, I didn't have any interest, just knowing that I might need to have previously listened to an additional part. I wanted nothing to do with it. And I've not listened to it yet. Maybe one of these days I'm going to have to sit down and listen to the Nigel Fair's Louise Jameson, 4th Doctor, Leela possibly being dead trilogy in the afterlife. And then I probably need to listen to, I think is there a trilogy with Romana? Romana 1 or 2, sorry. Not 3 though. I think Romana 3 does make a guest appearance in there somewhere along the way. Luna Romana. I've not listened to that. Anyway, that being said, we have the main range release for the month of April. Oh no, I already said, no, not April, May, because we got the Time Vampire. Main range release 134, The Wreck of the Titan by Barnaby Edwards. This one might be, I think this is the best, if memory serves me right. And I don't want to re-listen to this one because this trilogy is not good. Well, it is a trilogy, but comic book ways, there is a tie-in issue or release from the Companion Chronicles that came out this month also. So you have The Wreck of the Titan by Barnaby Edwards. I think this is, if memory serves me right, the better one out of all of them. You have The Lost Stories, The Song of Metropa by Pat Mills, which is the Space Whales, I believe. Yeah, the Space Whales. And then you have the Companion Chronicles, Night's Black Agents, which is a Jamie story, which is focusing on, again, this. I wish Big Finish would have put in the, on the cover art, tie-in to this event, this 6th Doctor Jamie event, because I don't, I think if memory serves me right, it makes the trilogy a little bit less bumpy, but it is not necessary, because I remember listening to only the trilogy, was not going to listen to this. Then a couple of years later, picked it up, listened to Night's Black Agent. So, yeah. So again, I think the highlight of May 2010 is Wreck of the Titan, sadly, or maybe unsadly. June 2010 brings us Dark Shadows, Night Whispers. Again, can't say anything about that. Also, London is Burning. Then we have the final conclusion of the Jamie and Sixth Doctor trilogy. And I wanted to like this. This had so much possibilities. The reason why I struggled to like this is, and I like it, but I don't like it at the same time, is it gives us kind of an in around the time of the Wheel of Time. And I like it, but I don't. And I think it's interesting, but I also don't like it at the same time. I find this Legend of the Cybermen trilogy very hard to thoroughly enjoy. We have the Macross, the Lost Stories with the Sixth Doctor. So this is the one I thought was, what is it? Not Paradise, not Point of Entry. But no, yeah, Point of Entry. This one is the one that I thought I got confused with the Point of Entry. This one is like kind of not that bad of a story, but it's also very predictable. And it's something that all science fiction shows have done from time to time. And this, obviously was written by Ingrid Pitt and Tony Rudlin in the 80s. So, maybe I'm castigating a show that may have either copied a science fiction trope or was doing something very similar. Also, June releases gives us Companion Chronicles from the 4th season, 12th episode. So this is the end of season 4. The John Dorney script Solitaire, which gives us and brings us back to the Celestial Toymaker. This is Charlie and the Celestial Toymaker. This is a fantastic story. We get one of the first box sets in quite some time. I think probably since. But the 2010 also gives us a couple more box sets. I believe in 2009, we had an Iris Wild Time box set that occurred. But we have this box set right here, and I know Liam would have this as his number 1 on his top 10 and would disagree for me not having it on my top 10. Guess what? Don't have it on my top 10. Anyway, this is Jago and Lightfoot Series 1 with 4 stories. The Bloodless Soldier by Justin Richards. The Belova Devil by Alan Barnes. The Spirit Trap by Jonathan Morris. And the Similarity Engine by Andy Lane. And then we have, this is interesting. I did some massive research. I have no idea why this happened the way it did. But in December 2009, we had, was it Death in Blackpool? Is that what it was? I think it was Death in Blackpool, which was from the 8th Doctor Adventures 4.1. And then it took until June of 2010 to get the next 8th Doctor adventure, which is Situation Vacant by Eddie Robson. Okay, I gave myself a note. Yep, it was Death in Blackpool. It was released 2009. So for me, highlights from June 2010, I would give it definitely to Solitaire by John Dorney. But I would also, as somebody who does hate reality shows, I would also give it to Situation Vacant because it is funny and it is clever and it pokes fun at reality shows. Similarly to how the 8th Doctor Adventures pokes fun at Max Warp too, with, the connection to Top Gear. So I really like Situation Vacant. I think it's a fun story. So those would be my 2 highlights. And I would just say, the Macross, not that bad. Legend of the Cybermen by Mike Maddox. Wanted to like it. Wish I still owned the CD. I picked it up sold it for like twice as what it's worth. It's probably worth like 4 times as much now. Oh well, live and learn, right? Who would have thought that we would be at a physical media free age? I didn't. Anyway, that being said, July 2010 brings us Dark Shadows, Kingdom of the Dead, which is a second box set. And throughout the rest of, for the next 4 months, not only could you pick up this box set, but you could have picked up part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, all going through October. So I like that. You have main range release 136, Cobwebs by Jonathan Morris, which brings us for the first time a return to old Nissa, the Nissa that left everybody in Terminus. This Nissa has come back and reunited with Turlo and Tegan, and not that much time has passed for them, but a lot of time has passed for her. And I find it fascinating and amazing that Jonathan Morris, I think, really did a trilogy, but it was spaced out throughout the main range so long to give us our final conclusion of old Nissa, then turning young, then eventually being left. And the horror of that and the implications of that. And one of the reasons why, I'm not going to go into that. I'll go into Big Finish and New Who problems another time, maybe. Or I'll forget about it altogether. Anyway, we have Companion Chronicles, Season 5, Episode 1, The Guardian of the Solar System by Simon Guerrier. This gives us a look at Mavic Chen before the events of the... What is it? Sorry. My brain just died. The Time Destructor. What is it? The Dalek's Master Plan. All right. My brain eventually decided to work. Okay. So we have that. And then we have... Wait. I have Situation Vacant on both of those months. One of them is right. One of those is wrong. All right. Let me just go to... It's a good thing I hyperlinked everything. All right. So Situation Vacant actually did come out in July 2010. So I was right. I was wrong to announce that it was released in June. So yeah, my bad. So for me, highlights for the month of July 2010, I would definitely give Cobwebs 2 thumbs up. I think that is a fantastic reintroduction to Nissa, old Nissa, with a payoff, I believe, in, is it Entropy? The E-Space trilogy. I think that is a really good payoff. And then, of course, you have the middle part of the trilogy, which I will look up now, I suppose, since I'm talking about it and recommending strongly about these things. So you have, again, the Cobwebs, which sets up everything. You have the, is it Empathy Plague? What is it? Not Waters of Mars. Yeah, the Entropy Plague. The Entropy Plague is the conclusion of the long-running old Nissa story. Entropy Plague is main range release 197, which again is getting ready for Big Finish to kind of wipe clean the slate of a lot of their continuity that you needed to listen to so many different things to in order to make sense of things. So I think that was a wise decision to put that so close to episode number 200 so that people could find enjoyment. So again, Cobwebs 1, the Entropy Plague 3, and then in the middle, you have the Prisoners of Fate, which by that point in time, we already have young Nissa, and young Nissa made her appearance in the Emerald Tiger, which I'm not sure it was not a Jonathan Morris script, but it gave us young Nissa, and then young Nissa being present in Prisoners of Fate gave us a situation that I feel as though gave us a good conclusion to her storyline. So again, mad praise, 2 thumbs up. Cobwebs. Situation Vacant actually came out in July. Loved it. Guardians of the Solar System, okay. Dalek's Mist Plan, way better. August gives us, again, Dark Shadows of the Kingdom of the Dead Part 2. We have The Whispering Forest by Stephen Cole. Then for the Companion Chronicles, and then here's the interesting. Oh, okay, sorry, I just wanted to pull up The Whispering Forest by Simon Cole. We have the Companion Chronicles, Echoes of Grey, and this was one of my biggest complaints about a lot of the Second Doctor Companion Chronicles. I always felt as though the Second Doctor Companion Chronicles were very weak because you'd have, basically they'd kind of do like the whole Monster of the Week type of a situation that was from their era. And then you would find that, the monster was just kind of misunderstood. This monster would kind of like, I love you, and then give you a kiss. But because of, its makeup or whatever, it would just basically kill you and turn you into a pile of dust. Not a fan of that. Eighth Doctor Adventures 4.3, written by Alan Barnes, Nevermore. I don't really remember this one. I only really remember Situation Vacant, Death in Blackpool, and of course To the Death and Lucy Miller. Those ones were the ones that stuck out in season 4 of the Lucy Miller Eighth Doctor Adventures. I honestly can't recommend anything for the month of August. Whispering Forest, no. Echoes of Grey, definitely not. I think it started off strong, and then by the part 2, when it's just, I love you. Oops, didn't mean to kill you there. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe by default, Nevermore, but I can't recall that for the life of me. September brings us, again, part 3 of the Dark Shadows, Kingdom of the Dead. We have main range release 138, Cradle of the Snake, written by Mark Platt. This is a horrible story. I do not like it. I wanted to so much like this because I feel as though Mark Platt at the time was a pretty good writer, and he was bringing back the Mara, and there was implications between, Tegan trying to get over some of what the Mara made her do, and so I like that. But there is I did not click for me. Maybe it will click for you. Again, email the show at alhambraaudio@gmail.com. You can tweet the show at Alhambra Podcast. DMs are open. You also have the main range release. You have the Bernie Summerfield releases. Season 11, Episode 1, Resurrection of the Past by Eddie Robson. You have your second main range release, 139, Project Destiny. And this is written by Mark Platt and Kevin Scott. This is, according to this, I did listen to this one. I think I like this one kind of the most because of, I guess, the body horror of it all. But again, it is really hard to like because you have Philippe Olivier's Hex, who is just super mopey. Mopey that his mom died, mopey about this. This does lead us into the next main range release, which is super strong, but it is just really hard. This is the whole, I think, Forge thing. I've never been a Forge person. Let's see, is it the Forge? Let's see, Ace Hex. No, well, I think it is a Forge thing, but I don't think we have What's His Bucket in this one. I think I do like the body horror of the whole situation. There's one scene where I think somebody was forcibly turned into something, and I enjoyed that. I thought it was fun and it was dark, and I think when Big Finish, when Doctor Who can go dark, I fully appreciate it. You have Companion Chronicles 5.3, Find and Replace by Paul Mars, which is a Katie Manning Third Doctor story. I don't own this one. And then you have the Eighth Doctor Adventures 4.4, The Book of Kells by Barnaby Edwards. I would have to give this one to Main Range 139. Nope, never mind. Sorry. No, I will give it to Project Destiny because of the body horror element, because of the extreme sci-fi stuff. Again, not into The Forge. Don't care about what's-his-face that Liam really super likes. I think Legion and Humphrey also like or whatever. Project Twilight never struck me. If you could do something more with the Time Lords and the Vampires, sign me up for that. But if you're just going to keep it on the outside, no. October 2010 brings us the fourth part of The Kingdom of the Dead, which was a box set. We have Dark Shadows, The Dollhouse by James Goss. Bernie Summerfield, 11.2, Escaping the Future by Eddie Robson. Main Range release 140, perhaps one of the best main range releases of all time. A Death in the Family by Stephen Hall. Companion Chronicles release The Invasion of E-Space by Andrew Smith, which I did not know that until I was compiling this list. I did not know. This was like the first point in time I think Andrew Smith came back and did anything Doctor Who-y since his E-Space Full Circle. You have The Eighth Doctor Adventures Deimos by Jonathan Morris. Again, did not listen to it. Can't recall it for the life of me. Strongly recommend A Death in the Family. I think that is a 9.5, perhaps near 10. Actually, I'm going to go with 9.5. I think in previous podcasts, I've given it a 10. I have to give it 9.5 because of Mopey Hex. Nobody likes Mopey Hex. Nobody wants to play with Mopey Hex. Everybody wants to take their toys and go home and let Mopey Hex cry out all by himself in the pouring rain. That's what we think about Mopey Hex. November 2010 brings us Bernice Summerfield Year Zero by Jonathan Clements. Graceless, the next box set, Series 1, written by Eddie Robson with 3 stories. This is the sequel to the Key to Time series that came out in 2009. We have The Sphere, The Fog, The End. I did not care for this. I do not care for Zara and whatever because she changed her name because reasons that I don't care about. Main Range release 141, you have The Lurkers at the Sunlight's Edge. This, perhaps, Lurkers at the Sunlight's Edge, this is perhaps one of the worst Main Range releases of all time. And I'm even throwing that in with Demons of Red Lodge. This one sucks really bad. I do not recommend Lurkers at the Sunlight's Edge. Lost Stories Season 2 box set came out also in November with 2 stories. Farewell Great Macedon by Morris Fari, adopted by Nigel Robinson. We have The Fragile Yellow Arc of Fragrance by Morris Fari and adapted by Nigel Robinson. The first box set, or first Short Trips Volume 1 set was released. I honestly will tell you, never pay full price for that Short Trips thing. Just wait for the 12 Days of Big Finish Miss, and they will basically give it to you for like less than half of what you could pay for it now. It is constantly put in as a a Christmas discounted special yearly. And I wish they would finally do something new. But, here we are. All we can do is just, hope. Even when hope is destroyed and dashed. Companion Chronicles 505, A Town Called Fortune by Paul Sutton. This is a Maggie Stables release. I have not listened to it. I do not own it because it is a Western. I think I need to finally just get over it and listen to it because it is Maggie Stables. One of the last few things that she did before she passed away. She did a fantastic job in Death in the Family. But yeah, I strongly recommend, I guess I'm strongly recommending myself to listen to A Town Called Fortune. Let's see, who wrote A Town Called Fortune? A Town Called Fortune is written by Paul Sutton. Then you have The Eighth Doctor Adventures, The Resurrection of Mars by Jonathan Morris, and The Scarifiers, The Secret Weapon of Doom by Paul Morris and Simon Bernard. I have to give it 100% to two things that were released in November, which is not Lurkers at Sunlight's Edge. I would tell you to run away from that. Just drop everything that you're doing and run away at full speed. Even Naruto running, if you would like. I would say easily The Lost Stories Season 2.1, which gives you Farewell Great Macedon. Oh no, I take that back. There's only one thing that I would recommend for the month of November. Sorry, my bad. Sorry for getting your hopes up and then dashing them at the last second. And then finally, December 2010 concludes with a subscribe. So what Big Finish used to do is give you a subscriber special for having a subscription for, I believe, 12 months or so. And then the following year, you were able to buy it. And because the only way that you could ever own it in actuality would be to be a subscriber for the first 12 months. I don't even think you could purchase it for download. So you had to be a subscriber for the first 12 months of this range to get this one. And this one was the An Earthly Child by Mark Platt. This is featuring Paul McGann's son, Sonny, or Jake McGann, as he was said referred to on the billing at the time. But at this point in time, you were able to finally purchase an earthly child. Sorry, for some reason, really hard to say something that goes against the original title of the first episode ever of Doctor Who. Then you have Bernie Summerfield 11.4, which is Dead Man's Switch by Richard Dinnick and John Dorney. Main range release, Demons of Red Lodge and Other Stories, featuring the Demons of Red Lodge by Jason Arnott. The Entropy Composition by Rick Briggs. You have Doing Time by William Gallagher and special features by John Dorney. I have thoughts. I've made my thoughts clear about Demons of Red Lodge, but I will tell you, a whole lot better than Lurkers at Sunlight's Edge. Then we get in December the Lost Stories Series 2.2, which features the Second Doctor and the Prison in Space by Dick Sharples and adapted by Simon Guerrier. The Daleks, The Destroyers, written by Terry Nation and adapted by Nick Briggs and John Dorney. Companion Chronicles Quinnis, written by Mark Platt, which I really appreciate the timing of both of these because Quinnis was written, they used one line from An Unearthly Child, not the subscriber special, but An Unearthly Child, about Quinnis. Mark Platt wrote a story about that. And then in the Eighth Doctor Adventures, Relative Dimension, they use part of the thing that occurred in Quinnis to create the adventures in 4.7 of the Eighth Doctor Adventures, Relative Dimensions, also written by Mark Platt. So I think that is kind of like really neat that he basically gave you a origin story to the planet Quinnis, talking about an earthly child, and then he kind of paid it off many years later, well, actually within the same month, but many years later in the Doctor's life in Relative Dimensions. I think that is fantastic. Then December 2010 concludes with a subscriber special, one of my favorite subscriber specials of all time. The only way you can ever get this, unless you pick it up and buy it physically on eBay or from some person, or you find it in a gift shop or whatever, the only way that you will ever be able to find this one physically, or I believe even download it, is to have a 12-month subscription somewhere in Big Finish, and I believe you can choose whichever one you want. That is The Four Doctors by Peter Angelides. I love that one. I know that there's a lot of people find it mid. I think that is the best subscriber special ever. Only, and The Five Doctors, which came out the following year, which also has the same stipulations. You cannot buy it physically unless you get it on eBay. You cannot download it unless you have a subscription to the main range or the monthly adventures. So yeah, The Four Doctors is fantastic. I absolutely love it. It is, I will tell you, when we get into, top 10, it's going to be somewhere on my top 10. That is going to be on there. And to Liam and Legion's and probably Humphrey's chagrin, Jago Lightfoot box set series 1 will not be. I did not really start enjoying, I guess you could say, Jago and Lightfoot until around tail end of box set 3, like around the last 2 stories or so. And then box set 4 pushed the enjoyment and made it so fun and entertaining. But that is just me. So that being said, that is all of the releases from the year of 2010. So a year in review for Big Finish from 2010. I will tell you, one of my favorite things as I was compiling this, again, just like Legion said at the very beginning of the podcast,
I think the Silver Age, which is more tarnished silver and more of a pooey brown, is like 91 to 150.
We had so many different writers, and this is why I'm constantly kind of skeptical of the writers for Big Finish nowadays, whenever we get a brand new one. And the only reason why I say that is when I look up that Big Finish release, The Short Trips Volume 1, that was released in November 2010, you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stories. The first story, Rise and Fall, was written by George Mann, who I'm not sure if that is his first thing that he ever contributed to Big Finish, but he is a strong writer. And then you have a couple of people I've never even heard of. One of them written also by Colin Baker, read also by Colin Baker. But I haven't heard of any of these other people. And I don't mean to, discount anybody. But, Peter Angelides, who did the subscriber special, he did that one, and I don't think he's really done anything else. So I can and will admit when, you know what? Oh, sorry, I take that back. He has done stuff. He just has done stuff that I haven't listened to. So just to go through what he's done, before he did that, he did the mirror signal maneuver for the Sarah Jane season. He wrote a book. He did the Chaos Pool, I believe. Yep, did the Chaos Pool, which is one of the Key to Time the Key to Time trilogies. He did Ferris's Follies, which is a companion chronicle, Romana 1 chronicle. He did Blake 7 Warship, which, or maybe a story. Did he do a story? What was Warship? I know. Oh, he did the whole thing of Blake 7 Warship. Okay. He's done a lot of Blake 7s, though. And not that many Doctor Who stuff. He has also done the Survivor's audiobook. So he's written his strengths. And perhaps as I go through this, I really like The Four Doctors. Chaos Pool, no. But you know what? Write your strengths, and that's all that matters. All right, so with that, we are going to get into my top 5 favorite Doctor Who Big Finish main range releases. Yeah, all of mine are Doctor Who main range releases, or Worlds of Doctor Who, I guess you could say, for the year of 2010. Then I will get to the fans of the timescales, the Doctor Who fans, Big Finish fans on the timescales, their top 10 favorite. There is more than 10 because some of the, averages have, tied with one another. So there is 10. So Liam would be happy that there is the top 10 actually consists of 17. Then of course, I only have a top 5. Then there is the lowest 10, and I will give you a hint. There's many there is, again, similarly to the top 10, there is tied with the same amount of, reviewing or what rating or whatnot. So there's 10 of the lowest rated from the fans of timescales, but there are more than 10. So again, Liam would like both of these lists because, you know what? Why stop at 10? Why not just put them all on there? All right. So my top 5 favorite from the year of 2010. Going from number 5, I'm going to say Lost Stories, Lost Stories release 2.1A. Farewell Great Mastodon by Morris Farid and Nigel Robson. Number 4 is, did I do this on purpose or did it just work out this way? Number 4 is the subscriber special for the main range, The Four Doctors by Peter Angelides. Number 3 is not The Three Doctors, though. Number 3 is main range release, number 140, A Death in the Family by Stephen Hall, which again is a near perfect story. Number 2, which I believe I do have as a 10 or a 9.5, which is Companion Chronicles 4.12, Solitaire, written by John Dorney. And number 1, and this could be a very surprising one, my number 1 favorite release from 2010 is main range release 136, written by Jonathan Morris, Cobwebs. And the main reason why I like that is because of the trilogy that was extended from 136 to 197 of the main range and allowed so many people. I don't know if Big Finish planned it that way, but it seems to work very good, especially because Jonathan Morris is really good at time and timey-wimey stuff. And, Cobwebs is episode 1 of timey-wimey stuff, and it concludes in the Entropy Plague at 196. All right, so that is my top 5 favorite from 2010. Here is the timescales, fans of Big Finish, top 10 favorite releases from 2010. And there's multiple ones. And so for number 10, Bernice Summerfield, 11.1, Resurrection of the Past by Eddie Robson, with a score of 8.3. With a average score, main range release 131, this is The Survival of the Fittest by John Ainsworth, which got a 7.8. Klein Story, written by Lee Mansfield, which is 8.7. It averages out to 8.3. So both of those are number 10. Number 9, main range release 135. And I cannot believe that this is this high. Maybe I just don't get it. I don't. But anyway, main range release 135, Legend of the Cybermen by Mike Maddox, with an average score of 8.4. Number 8, Companion Chronicles 5.1, written by Simon Guerrier, The Guardian of the Solar System. Number 7, Companion Chronicles 5.03, Find and Replace by Paul Mars. I might have to give that one a check. I'm very curious now. That one got that one got pretty high. Let's see what is Find and Replace. I know it's a Katie Manning and Third Doctor story. I am so interested. Sorry for the... Oh, also, those of you that are interested in checking out Farewell Great Mastodon, there is an excerpt that you can get for free. Again, the Dr. Alhambra Podcast is not affiliated with Big Finish or the BBC. No infringement is intended. Anyway, Companion Chronicles, Find and Replace is... The synopsis says, Christmas 2010, Jo Grant finds herself stuck in a department store elevator with an alien creature called Huxley. Huxley is a narrator from Verbatim 6, and he is here to let Jo revisit the best times of her life when she was the plucky companion of the enigmatic space/time traveler known only as... Nope. Nope. Only known as Iris Wildthyme. Okay, well, I know it will probably, twist ending Companion of the Doctor. Nope. Sorry. That checks why I don't own Find and Replace. All right. Anyway, moving on. And that makes sense why Paul Mars is doing it, because Paul Mars gave us the Wormery and also was the writer of Iris Wildthyme. So it does check for why Paul Mars wrote that Companion Chronicles. Number 6, main range release 132, The Architects of History by Steve Lyons, which got a review of 8.7. Number 5, main range release 130, A Thousand Tiny Wings by Andy Lane and Mark Platt, with an average score of 8.8. Number 4, Bernie Summerfield, Year Zero, Jonathan Clements. It got an 8.9. Also, right on its heels, number 3, Bernie Summerfield, 11.2. Escaping the Future by Eddie Robson, 9.0. Number 2, a two-way tie for number 2. I like that. Is Companion Chronicles, 4.12. Solitaire, written by John Dorney, with an average rating of 9.2, which also, again, tied with Farewell Great Macedon by Morrison Farid and Nigel Robinson. And number 1, as rated by the viewers, listeners of the timescales, for 2010, main range release 140, A Death in the Family by Stephen Hall, with a score of 9.5. And I concur. I used to give it a perfect 10, but whenever I think about Mopey Hex, no. Mopey Hex, no. Just no. All right, so if that was the highest 10, now let's go for the lowest 10. And there is multiple releases for each one of these, so Liam would be thoroughly happy to know that is a thing. Number 10, a three-way tie with an average score of 7.2. We have main range release 138, Cradle of the Snake by Mark Platt. Also, main range release 142, The Demons of Red Lodge and Other Stories, with an average rating of 7.2. You have the Demon of Red Lodge story, which got a 6.6. The Entropy Composition by got a 6.2. Sorry. Doing Time by William Gallagher got a 7.4. And Special Features, which is the best. Sorry, if you could only buy one of those, if Big Finish allowed you to only buy one of this 4-part solo story mashup, Special Features by John Dorney is worth it. If you could pick it up for £1.99 or $3 or whatever, do it. It is worth it. Number 9, a 2-part tie for number 9 and the lowest rated by the Timescales listeners. Companion Chronicles 4.10, The Time Vampire by Nigel Ferris, got a 7.1. Also with a 7.1, the 5.2 Echoes of Grey by John Dorney, with aliens that don't mean to kill you, they just love you. And I hate that. Number 8. Main range release 133, The City of Spires by Simon Bovey, got a average rating of 6.9. Number 7, Lost Stories 1.8, The Macross by Ingrid Pitt and Tony Rundlund, with an average rating of 6.8. Number 6, for the lowest rated 2010 releases from Big Finish, we got a 3-way tie. Main range release 137, The Whispering Forest by Stephen Cole. Companion Chronicles 4.11, Night's Black Agent by Marty Ross. And coming in alphabetically, I don't know how I got that. Anyway, The Lost Stories 2.2b, The Daleks, The Destroyers by Terry Nation, adapted by Nick Briggs and John Dorney. All of them received an average rating. Oh my word, this is the devil's rating right here. It is the 6th in the lowest 6, and they all have an average rating of 6.6. There we go. All of these releases are evil. Don't listen to them backwards. It will tell you Paul is dead. Anyway, Number 5 on the lowest rated Big Finish releases for 2010, we have the Eighth Doctor Adventures making its first appearance on either one of these lists, or my list for that matter. Release 4.3, Nevermore by Alan Barnes with a rating of 6.5. Number 4, we got a two-way tie for fourth lowest. We have Companion Chronicles 4.04, 5.04, The Invasion of E-Space by Andrew Smith. Also, Lost Stories 2.2a, The Prison in Space, written by Dick Sharples, adapted by Simon Guerrier. Both of them have an average rating of 6.4. Number 3 on the worst rated or lowest rated by the timescales for 2010, we have main range release. This is a tie. We have a main range release 141, Lurkers at Sunlight's Edge by Marty Ross. And Companion Chronicles 5.5, A Town Called Fortune by Paul Sutton. Heading it up, number 2, Companion Chronicles 4.8, The Emperor of Eternity by Nigel Robinson with an average rating of 6.0. All right. And now, for the lowest rated of all of 2010, Lost Story 1.4, The Hollows of Time by Christopher H. Bedmead with an average score of 5.7. So as I look at this list, comparing that to the lowest of 2010, the Hollows of Time 5.7 on the lowest for 2009, Lost Stories at 1.2, Mission to Magnus 5.7. I find it really interesting that the highest for 2010 has 2 of the 3 trilogies, the Legend of the Cybermen and also, there's only that one. Sorry, I take that back. We have 2 of the 3 for the first Klein trilogies, A Thousand Tiny Wings and The Architects of History is the top one. And somewhere in between the top one and the lowest one is the part 3. However, and the reason why I bring that up is because you have for the lowest ones for 2009, you had the trilogy of the lowest ones being the Key to Time series, which is well earned. Actually, only main range release 117 and 119. 118 was somewhere between the highest and the lowest, but it was not in the highest. That's for darn sure. And then you had in the top one, the trilogy, you had Patient Zero, which was a Dalek story written by Nick Briggs. Then you had The Blue Forgotten Planet also by Nick Briggs. And in between there, you had Paper Cuts by Mark Platt. Mark Platt's story was in the top 10 of lowest with an average rating of 6.9. I will tell you. So maybe 2009 has, according to this, the range from highest lowest to lowest is, number 1, The Mission to Magnus 5.7. Number 10, Paper Cuts 6.9. So you had, the range is 1.2 from the highest to the lowest. For 2010, you have the range that you have between the highest and the lowest. For number 10, it's a 3-way tie. Which one do I want to throw under the bus? Demons of Red Lodge and Other Stories, the average rating of 7.2. And the highest, The Hollows of Time, 5.7. So this one, the 2010 had a the lower scores, the lowest ones actually had a higher score compared to that of 2009. I think that's quite interesting. I still think that this is, as Legion said, I
think the Silver Age, which is more tarnished silver, more of a pooey brown. is like 91 to 150.
But that's just my opinion. What is yours? Please email the show at alhambraaudio@gmail.com. You could tweet the show at Alhambra Podcast. Share with me your list, your favorite ones. Which ones have you liked? Which ones do you agree with? Which ones do you disagree with me? I'd love to hear. Again, please email the show at alhambraaudio@gmail.com. Sorry, at alhambraaudio, at gmail.com. Tweet the show at Alhambra Podcast. All one word. Would love to hear your thoughts. In the near future, I am going to be doing the 2011 Best of End of Year Review, as well as some other podcasts. Please stay tuned for those. And until next time, I will see you in time.
You have been listening to the Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast. Doctor Who is owned and trademarked by the BBC. Doctor Who Alhambra is not affiliated with the BBC or Big Finish. No infringement is intended. Visit our website at alhambrapodcast.weebly.com or email the show at alhambraaudio@gmail.com. Tweet us at Alhambra Podcast. That is ALHAMBRA Podcast. Thank you.